Okay, we're going to be doing two sections today, vertex to standard and solving for x squared. Okay. The good thing is what we do tonight won't affect tomorrow. So let's turn the page. This is your project. Don't worry about it now. We'll deal with it on Tuesday. Okay. We're going to be dealing with everything quadratic, which means everything squared. Unit 1 was everything a line. This is everything a parabola, quadratic equations. Okay. So the first thing I want you to see is there's two forms of a quadratic. There's vertex form, where you can see the vertex right away, -3, -4, and standard form, where it's x squared, then x, and then a number. If you remember, this is what we dealt with transformations, and this one would lend itself to factoring. So, first thing we're going to do is change this from vertex form to standard form. So this is when you're going to write the x plus 3 two times, and you can either FOIL or box it. I'm going to box it. Oh, and do me a favor, change this -6 to a +6 so it works the way I want it to. Okay, x squared, 3x, 9. Remember the diagonals go together. So this is really x squared plus 6x plus 9. And then there's that -4. So if I'm going to rewrite this, I rewrite it as f of x. It's not a different function. It's the child is here and the child is here. So don't make it g of x because that implies it's a whole new function. And then I go 9 minus 4, which is 5. And if you can see, it lent itself to standard form. Okay? Now, standard form to vertex form is not as easy, but let's start by putting it in standard form. And we want it to look like this. We want it in vertex form. Well, in order to put something in vertex form, you have to find the vertex. There's two ways to find the vertex. One way to find the vertex is this. And it'll make more sense in a few days when we go over factored form. Okay? So if you remember factoring, and then you set it equal to 0, okay? The vertex is the x value that is halfway in the middle between -1 and -5. So if you remember drawing a U, here's -1, here's -5, and if you're going to make the parabola, the vertex is in the middle. Well, if you look, halfway between is -3. Okay? We'll figure out how to do the y value in a second. The other way is, I don't know if you remember this formula, -b over 2a. Okay? That means I need to find out my a, which is 1, my b, which is 6, and my c, which is 5. So now I do the formula, -b over 2 times a, -6 over 2, which is -3. If you look, whether you do it the first way by factoring, find what's in the middle, or do the -b over 2a, you get -3. I think most of you would agree this one seems easier, but eventually I'm going to have you find the zeros, and if I'm already having you find the zeros, then going what's halfway in the middle just seems easier for me. I don't care which way you do it. Okay? So if I'm going to do that, I have the x value, but now I need to find the y value. So I could take that x value, and I plug it in. And I'm going to go -3 squared. Always put your negatives in parentheses. Otherwise, it will make a mistake. A negative times a negative is a positive. Okay? So I got the y value. That would go right here and right here. So we just figured out the vertex. Now I'm ready to write it in vertex form. So remember, it's the same thing. It's not a different function, so don't put g of x. Now, if there was a number in front, it would go right in front. Sorry. So if there was a number in front, it would go right in front, but there's no number in front, so I go straight to the parentheses. Remember, you take the opposite of the x, which is -3 plus 3, and then the y is a straight shooter. And if you look, there's the function in vertex form. Okay? I'll do one example of each, and then we'll be good to go. I think I'm going to do the middle one. All right. I need to go to standard form. So if you remember what we did for standard form, first thing I did is I box. So x minus 1 times x minus 1, FOIL, or I come over here and I box it, x minus 1, x minus 1. The diagonals go together, so I get x squared minus 4x plus 1. Now remember before we had the plus 8, but we also have this 4 right here. So we have to acknowledge multiplying that by 4 before we even add the 8. So I'll put that 8 right there at the end, but we're not really ready for it yet. So distribute, distribute, distribute. 4x squared minus 16x plus 4. Now we're ready for the plus 8. Remember, it's the same function. F of x equals 4x squared minus 16x plus 12. Now I'll eventually show you how to graph both vertex form and standard form on your calculator, and as long as this one's on top of this one, you did great. Okay? Now, we're going to go from standard form to vertex form. Options are you can do negative b over 2a, or you can factor. Now, because there's a number in front, I feel like factoring this, and especially with the 16, seems more difficult. So I'm going to find my a, my b, and my c. I'm going to do the formula negative b over 2a. So I'm going to go negative of negative 12 over 2 times 3. Negative and a negative make a positive. 12 over 6 is 2. I found the x value of my vertex. Now I'm going to find the y value by plugging it into my x. It's showing my work, of course. Always do exponent first. 2 squared is 4, times 3 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24, plus 16. 12 minus 24 is negative 12, plus 16 is 4. I just figured out the y value of my vertex. Now that I figured out my vertex, I can write it in vertex form. F of x equals. Now here's how it's a little bit different. Remember what I said, if there's a number in front, you have to put that number in front so you can get it back. Parentheses, x, do the opposite of the x value, squared, and the y is a straight shooter. Remember to check it. You would take standard form, graph it, vertex form, graph it, and as long as they're on top of each other, you're good to go. Your homework is A, C, A, C. I think that's it. Yep.